Good day, my beautiful children. Today is Tuesday, May the 19th, and we're wrapping up our film notes here, continuing with a discussion of some different film genres. There aren't too many left here. Before we get going, um, I've one that's not on a slide that I wanted to mention. That's romance. And clearly, the romance film genre is more or less directed towards women, but not necessarily. I mean, I like a good romance story as good as the next guy. But women often play a much more centralized role in terms of leading characters, and conflicts are mediated in a romance film not by fights and bullets, but by love. So that's your romance. All right. Um, let's see here. Foreign film. So the United States, and I mentioned this before at the beginning of the unit, but we uh, we don't lead the world in film production. That's India. Actually, we're number three. It goes India, Nigeria, then us. Nigeria, that's a weird one, um, but we take up 90% of films shown in other countries. So everybody loves Hollywood. And if you looked at like in terms of like box office ticket sales, we don't make the most films, but we make the most money, and our films are seen in more countries, even though we don't make the most. You can see pretty much any American blockbuster film in any country in the world, and that's because of the globalization of the film industry. Um, it's in the way it's marketed. Uh, when Star Wars opens, it's in every country, everywhere. That is not the same. It's not a two-way street. So U.S. films make up 90% of other countries. Film distribution. Only 1.6% of the films in the U.S. are foreign films. So it's definitely not a two-way street. And if you want to see a foreign film, unless it's like a big time, Oscar-worthy blockbuster, and there have been a few. In fact, last year's Best Picture winner, Parasite, was a Korean film, and that was shown in some theaters. But typically, if you want to see a foreign film, you have to go to an art house theater, which only major cities have, or you have to wait for it to come out on demand, and you really have to go searching for it. But we tend to think that we are kind of like the end all and be all when it comes to film. We didn't even invent the medium. France was the birthplace of cinema, and every country, every developed country in the world has a movie industry. And there have been some famous directors and obviously famous actors from foreign countries. Um, if you think of Kurosawa in Japan, who made really cool martial arts films, and Federico Fellini from Italy is Italian director. Um, you've got directors from all over the world um, that work here in America, and you have foreign actors that work here in America. So anyway, bottom line, you can see pretty much any American film anywhere on the planet Earth, but if you're in America, uh, you're going to have to look really, really hard to find a foreign film to watch here in our country, unless you stream it. All right, documentaries. So, documentary films aren't typically shown in theaters, although that has changed in the last couple decades. Netflix obviously has kind of reinvented the genre, and there's all kinds of really cool Netflix um, documentary films that I'm really fond of. Making a Murderer is a great one, and there's just a bunch. But typically, these films they they're pretty opinion based. Some director has an axe to grind with usually an interesting, if not controversial, subject, and they make a movie about it. And you have to understand going in that these are human beings making these movies, and so you're definitely going to. Rarely do you ever see a documentary where you're like, you know what, it was really fair and even handed on both sides. They made some really good points on both sides of the argument. That's not typical of a documentary. Typically, that documentary is going to take whatever bias that the filmmaker has. It's really easy to do. You just you can edit the heck out of it, and and tell whatever story you want. Um, we also have newsreel films, and those came around in the 20s and 30s, and we talked about that earlier. Um, that would capture basically what we would see these days on the nightly news, and they would show them in theaters for people before TV. Um, and then I don't know what cinema verite means, or verita. Uh, if I'm guessing it means true film in Latin, but who the hell knows? But propaganda, there have been a number of documentary films that have been made that people consider to be propaganda. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the documentary that's been bouncing around about Corona. It's the Plandemic one. I refuse to watch it, but based on the comments I'm reading from people on social media, this is a piece of propaganda that essentially claims that Bill Gates and other people created the coronavirus in a lab to bring down our government, and some wild stuff. Remember the thing with propaganda, and a lot of documentary films fall under that. Usually not necessarily a complete and total lie. The best propaganda at least contains some nuggets of the truth, because if you can wrap your head around things that you know are true, then everything else in it is you're going to consider probably to be factual as well. And that's what makes it kind of dangerous. Um, in America, we've had some famous ones. This is Morgan Spurlock. He did the Super Size Me, um, and then he did another one. I can't remember the name of it. That was the dumbest documentary premise I've ever heard. If you haven't seen it, basically he eats McDonald's for every breakfast for a month, and then finds out that it's killing him. Uh, every meal for a month, morning, noon, and night, and then he always asks to supersize it. Two things came out of that when I watched, after it came out. One, I wanted McDonald's bad, like I had a super craving for McDonald's, and two, McDonald's got rid of their super size because of this, because of the bad publicity. But who didn't know that eating Big Macs and fries every meal of your life for 30 days wouldn't be? I mean, of course, it's bad for you. And we got Michael Moore here. Michael Moore is a filmmaker from Michigan, and he has made a ton of documentaries about gun control and the auto industry and the health industry, and all kinds of different things. And he's very liberal, and his documentaries obviously come from that point of view. So depending on your political leanings, he either makes really cool, interesting movies that are trying to tear the lid off of a lot of controversial subjects, or he's a complete and total fraud and liar, and there is no in between. All right, independent films. So um, during the early days of Hollywood, with the studio system, if you wanted to make a movie, you made it with one of the five big studios or the three little studios, or you didn't make it. And after Congress busted up the studio industries and kind of destroyed their monopoly of it in the Paramount decision, we get independent film companies. And indies are smaller films, typically made on a much smaller budget. And then they have independent film festivals like Cannes in France, or Sundance here in the United States, and they get screened there, and then they would get optioned by major studios who would then promote them. One of the ones that comes to mind is Paranormal Activity, the first one. The most money they spent on it was on catering for the crew and the actors. They made it for a couple, tens of thousands of dollars, and then it ended up getting somehow Steven Spielberg saw it and loved it, and he got behind it, and then it got optioned by a major studio, and it to this day I think it's the highest grossing film. If you took what you spent versus how much you sold in tickets, that's what the gross is. There have been tons of movies that have made more, but they also cost millions and millions of dollars to make. This was made for nothing, and it made millions and millions of dollars. But that typically doesn't happen. Usually, indies, they get a lot of love when it comes time for Oscars, but typically they don't sell a ton of tickets. And a lot of the major film studios have also created in-house independent film divisions that make smaller films. Not every movie has to be Star Wars. You could make Little Miss Sunshine or Reservoir Dogs or whatever. So there you go. So I think that's it I do want to go back since we have a little bit of time, and if you're interested, who knows? I don't know if you are. I thought I'd show you some stuff about how movies are made. So this is shot composition. These are the different types of shots that directors use in a film. So you've got a long shot, which looks like this, very far away. You've got close-ups like this one, which is right on the actors or the action, and then you've got medium shots, which is exactly what you'd think. It's in between the two. So these are all from Up. Those are three different shot compositions from the film Up. And we've got different angles. So you've got your eye level angle, which would be here. That's very typical of most movies you see, where you're looking right into the eyes of the actors, the action. You got low angle shots like this one, which are shot from below. And then you've got your high angle shots, shot from a boom, um, looking down on the action. So those are the three main types of shot angles when you're making films. And then we've got movement. Tracking would be as you if you're following the action from like left to right. Typically, that's how it tracks. Panning would be where you jump really quick from one shot to another one, and then zoom is exactly what it sounds like. It zooms in real close up on a shot. So those are different types of movements that cameramen will use. And these are storyboards. So this is from Gone with the Wind. And every time a movie is shot, before it's shot, they do a storyboard of the film where the director usually, or someone working for the director or with the director, they will basically draw out the whole movie shot by shot, and they will add notes. So for this example, you see the shot of Gone with the Wind. This is one of the last scenes, and there's Scarlett. And this is a distant shot, and you see Tara in the background, and the notes are camera pullback shot, tells you what the camera is going to do. And yeah, so every movie that's ever been made has storyboards for this, and they're actually pretty cool if you can look at them. The ones for Star Wars are amazing because Lucas made them, George Lucas, and the drawings are hilarious. So this is another storyboard, and I don't remember what movie this is for. But this gives you an idea of some of the different shots. And this is from a storyboard from a Western. Again, it kind of walks you through all the different shots they're going to use and the action that's going to happen. Here's another one that tells you the type of, here's the pan shot, panning. And then, this is a long distance shot, and it gives the action. So before the movie even is made, the director kind of knows exactly what in his mind it's supposed to look like, and what the action should look like, and what the camera angles and shots should look like. And before they even do anything, this is all laid out for them. All right. So that's it for today. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to you guys about some websites that I think are really cool that you might like if you're into movies. Some of them you would have heard of, others probably not. And I think on our last day, I'm going to give you a summer viewing list of movies I really enjoy that I think you guys might like. You take it or leave it. It's up to you. Understand that I have really, really good taste and I'm super smart. So if I give you a film suggestion, it's basically gold, and you should immediately run to watch that movie. So that'll be for Thursday. Today, we have Zoom farewells set up. So I would like to see you guys in person ish and say goodbye. So, first period, you're at 1, and third period, you're at 2, and fourth period, you're at 3. And we won't be on long, 15, 20 minutes just to kind of see each other's faces and say goodbye before we hit it for the summer. But I'd like to see all you guys, as many as possible, on these Zoom calls. So please carve some time out to do that with us tomorrow or today. All right, so that's it for today. As always, peace and love. This is Mr. Hudak signing out, and I will catch up with you guys tomorrow.